What's going on, Asia? But welcome back to Beyond the 90, and we have a new manager in place. We have our first game under him. So let me just take you through this. I'm going to give you a little bit of my analysis, not the specifics, because there's not a lot of statistics. I've managed to watch the game, obviously make some notes. A couple of things to mention. Number one, this is pre-season, so it's very, very early days. I'll tell you some of the stuff that I liked, some of the stuff that potentially we could do better. And second of all, sometimes let's be honest, he's only been in charge for 3 days. However, I've seen a real good improvement compared to the last game. The last game of like 180 minutes or so with the three different teams that were played, it was at the beginning it was a bit exciting, and towards the end, let's be honest, it was pretty boring. But now that Marty's in, we can start to see what he's trying to do. And for me, overall, positives. And I think overall, I've seen on social media and just speak to people, they've been excited for what he says. Now, the team that we're going to call ZTE because their name, I've never even heard of this Hungarian side before. Another fact to consider, they were one. This is their last game before they start the official season. So what that means for them, from their perspective, is that they were going pretty full on. And overall, I was quite impressed with Leicester and even the way that they performed because they gave us a good challenge. Was it the top-notch game? No. I could see what Marty's supposed to do. Now, for those of you that have looked into him and probably known possession-based football and the pressing, which I'll talk about in just a second. So we'll start with the first formation and then we'll go through some of the position things that I thought that was good to mention as well. So if I go to this one, and that's the wrong one. Let me see if I can find this. So let me get into the second lineup and the first lineup. So this is how we set up at the beginning. I'll be honest, when this first lineup came out, I went, "Oh God!" Some of the players in particular, Daka being one of them, I thought maybe he's changed his ways, and we'll get onto him in just a second. El Canoes, Winks and Skip. It was interesting. I think they've played double pivot before and Andy King, and then Fass and Cody. I'll be honest, both of them probably need to go. Let's be honest. I'll go through each player one at a time. But in general, in terms of the half, it was there was there was a definite theme, and that theme was those two players that stood out in particular. Number one was Monga. I think everything, especially Winks, was looking for Monga the entire time, and the players just looking at give it to him and he'll create something. He was strong, he was physical, he was confident. It made the right back absolutely have a nightmare. He looked great, and it seems like the tactic at the beginning was give it to him, he'll create something. Another player that really impressed, obviously El Canoe, still coming back to fun fitness. If we can keep him and if we keep this squad, and there's some players that I'm unhappy with, some players that I am very, very happy with. My God, we're going to have an electric team. El Canoes, there's been some rumors of some teams, like Leverkusen, etc., interested in him. We will see if he goes, but I have a feeling, obviously, he's one of the assets that we probably need to sell. But if we don't, my God, we've got some great players. McAteer, another player in the game that I was impressed with. I just want him to be a bit braver. Do I see him starting every week? No. Do I see him as a rotation player? Probably. I think this guy does have the potential. At the beginning of last season, he started really strongly, and when they were playing, well, Thingy's play was a 3-2-4-1. He was playing on this right-hand side before Fatawu got into the squad and was like before he was signed, and he was good. In this game, he tried, he took on his man. He sometimes made the wrong decisions, but one thing I would say to him is just be a bit more brave. You've got good players behind you that can cover up. Overall, the team looked pretty solid. Defensively, they were pretty resilient throughout. Um, Another one here as well, in terms of Patson Daka. I don't know how much we've got to do with this lad now. He made some good pressing runs, but as a number nine, it's not looking good. If we can get him off the wage bill, at the moment, I think he's kind of his minutes are limited. His minutes are limited at Leicester. He was missing opportunities. He was pressing well. Apart from that, he didn't really offer much in terms of a pressing ability. His thought patterns weren't that great. His some of the chances I missed. Oh my God. Um, so I can see some of these players, for example, Monga's probably the main one here that I would see starting. And it would be interesting to see how Cifuentes starts to implement his style. Before he's seen as setting up with a 4-3-3. In this game, We set up with a 4-2-3-1. So we had Skip and Winks holding. I think that worked relatively well. For the championship, that's going to be overkill. So what you obviously used to happen in Enzo is they got the right back and they inverted him inwards to play alongside Winks. Um, it looks like he's going to use them in a slightly different way. And I've saw some of the movements actually in the first part of the season, how it's in the first part of the game and how it's going to work. But overall, I mean, there's some really good things. Fast shows that he's good at championship level. Would I like him in the squad? I think there's bigger priorities to get rid of instead of Cody and probably Vestergaard as two of the examples. But Fast is another one where I'm like, hmm. We'll get on some of the players that didn't feature, and I'll touch on why that is in a second as well. Um, Hamza Chowdhury at right back. You could tell it's not his comfortable position. That's going to be probably his spot for the majority of it. What Marcy's like to do with Paul is have like I would say like a Rodri style player, a DM that can see it, that can ping balls here and there, that can then drive into the middle and score. Um, I would be surprised if Hamza Chowdhury is still here at the end of the window. I think he's one of the players that the contract finishes at the end of the season. So, and he was shipped out on loan to Sheffield Wednesday last year. Um, I don't think anybody's going to really pay his wages, but I can't really see too much of a future with him in the squad. If it is, I'll actually see him as one of probably if they're going to play two eights, I might see him as a high eight, not for his athletic, but for his pressing, his tackling. And I think we've not seen him as much last time. When we were up with Enzo last time, I think he was one of the weaker members of the squad, and that's somebody that's a big was a big fan when he first came in. And I just saw all this potential. Um, Stanarchek did a good job. Luke Thomas, I'll come into him, was okay at times. I think that, how do I say this in the nicest way possible? As I think Christensen's probably the main one. I think he wouldn't even feature in this game at all. Um, I say that Christensen's going to move on. Luke Thomas is another one where I'm thinking as a squad player, yes. Is he going to feature that much this season? I think there's better alternatives. And we'll come on to some of them as well. I didn't see him full back and bomb on as much. He mainly played as the three with Hamza going forward. And last year he was one of our bright spots in an unbelievably dim team. Let's be honest with you. Um, but overall, yeah, happy with how that the first half. And I was thinking, okay, there's some patterns of play. I could see the box shape in the midfield they were trying to make at times. El Canous was just running the show and just pulling strings for fun. And you could see that again, he could be a player that could be with us, but I've not got a lot of hope that he's going to be here. Um, but what have I got? Some particular bits. Luke Thomas coming back to it. Absolute error for the fifth, about 50 minutes in. Stolarczyk bails him out. I think Stolarczyk's good enough for the championship for now. It depends on what our ambition is, especially with the 9 points deduction that looks like it's coming. What do we do? I think they've made clear that they want a number 6, a number 9, a left centre back, which I thought was strange. With that. So again, we will have to see what happens there. The mid pressing that I really enjoyed. So when the opposition got the box, we kind of crowded them out and played together. That was a lot stronger in the second half. But overall, it was more about the fitness and getting the team. This was also something I wanted to mention if I go back to this window as well. At times, it looks like before what would happen is that we'd invert a winger, we'd play three at the back. So, for example, Chowdhury. Skip would also be Kinsby Hall, and it would be like a 4-2-3-1. So we'd invert the fullback, and then when we come to defend, they would come inside. What we saw differently this time is that for this position, we saw Chowdhury at times. I think he was even offside for one of the oppositions up there with the front line. So at times it was like a little bit like this. We're playing with like a 4-on-4, really attacking. And what I loved about this is that they didn't resent, especially in the second half. They didn't stop doing that. Um, so the right back is going to be really high up playing this position as basically a fullback. And with the 4-2-3-1, it will be interesting to see how flexible he is. Now, again, we've only seen 90 minutes so far of Marty's style. What he's done before is he's gone for a 4-3-3. So he's played here, here, and then two number eights like this. So you've got your 4-3-3 with a base pivot. Wings could play his position. I think he could do it on his own. And then also, as well, you'd have the player kind of coming in this direction as well. So this for me works a lot better with the 4-3-3. Now, bearing in mind, Martin's had 3 days with them. I could see these front three rotating, especially with some of the players we talk about later, that will be able to interchange. You could even see, I know that sounds a bit strange, but like an El Canoes coming into this position as well, or like a Will Alves, a Jake Evans that can come in as a striker and then they can interchange. So, for example, Monga's relatively can play across the front line, McAteer. So we could see these front three, I think, a lot more fluid, a lot more interchanging, which will create havoc for the defense, let alone when you've got somebody like a Ricardo trying to bomb on and bomb in as well. So the team dynamics again is still relatively new, but I was impressed. There wasn't too again apart from Monga, there wasn't really too many players that we haven't seen before. Now coming into the second half, I'll get up this formation as well. So it was more again. I've got some changes because some happened after second half, but I thought overall it was a promising first half. Um, and yeah, some of the notes I've got, Daka was painful to watch. He really was. Second half, 10 changes. Stolarczyk was the only person that kept their place. We've heard that the likes of Begovic might be coming in as a backup option, but again, he's not confirmed as of yet. But let's have a look at these teams at the moment. And that's probably one of the reasons why he got 90 minutes today. He was the only player that got 90 minutes. Some players barely got 15, 20, which we'll come into in a second. So, back line, Vestergaard, Okoli, Ricardo, JJ. We were missing the likes of Nelson, apparently from like a minor injury. So they're just taking time, which is absolutely fine. Ricardo looked self-assured. He looked like a like they had the captain's armband. Vestergaard, maybe it's me, but I don't see him playing as prominent roles as he does under Enzo. Um, I think that he wants people to be confident on the ball. What was nice, the ball would come in here and it would come quite quickly to these players. And the ball would ping around a lot more. At times, Vestergaard used to hold the ball, just wait for the right moment, then find the pass, which works better for him. Now, this way with Marty, from what I've seen so far, is going to be a lot more patient. It's going to take a lot more, it's a lot less patience, but a lot more about fast ball, try to pull people out of positions quicker. So the ball came into Samore, who I think had a beastly game. Still a little bit of it, but when he gets going, he does remind me of Yaya Toure. And he was playing alongside Wilfred Ndidi, who I think is going to move on as well. But Samore's here, and at times it felt like he was the only pivot. And Ndidi would drop in, but I think the two of them they have two similar roles, especially defensively. So it felt a bit it felt like they were when Samori was getting the ball, it felt like Ndidi kind of it took his physicality out of it. So I think these two clash a little bit too much, which should be a good solution. But I think pairing like a Samori with a Skip or a Winks would be better going forward. Because what Winks lacks in physicality, Samori makes up for. But then Samori has the ability, which I saw a few times, the physicality, but also can then ping a ball across to the wings as well. As mentioned before, JJ again. So sometimes Ricardo was joining in with the attack, and this was a lot more balanced. Where if Ricardo stayed, JJ, I think for one of the shots, would coming right into the center and joining in with the attack along that left hand side, jumping in, which I thought was a good move. Didn't work as effectively, but again, we're really early days yet. Mavididi, again, I thought was pretty solid, what we expected him to do. Alves looked good. I was surprised that Alves was dragged after we came on for, it got maybe 20 minutes or so, because I thought he would have played more of a prominent role in the team. Maybe I'm waiting for people like El Canuso, etc., to move on. Page looked good. Apparently, the contract is close, and he looks like a really good player that is capable of playing in the championship when he came on. I think he linked up this was a lot more pressing. There was a lot more dropping. I think IU sometimes drop deep and gave long balls in, which is something that Enzo didn't do as much, but it's something that we're going to look at. And I think that I love that the times if we go, do you know what, one ball over the top. As simple as it is, that is going to get the fans more on side, especially some of the older ones that are just like right, straightforward football. But the way that we pressed when at times it was like, especially like we used to do a 5 and a 5. the way that these four sometimes pressed was quite. I really enjoyed it. Evans looked good, I think, at parts, but again, he could be another player that, for example, Ayew could then drift out to the right, Mavididi can then drift over to the middle, and you can allow this front to be a lot more flexible with that and get people into position. Where Enzo used to play with five, we're playing with four, but the five is also made up with JJ coming across or Ricardo coming into that position. Then you've got your five at the back. Um, overall. But it's at the times we saw Samore dropping in, pressing from the midfield, trying to win balls. I'd say an area that let us down in both half is the defence. And it was massively bad, but it's definitely an area that we need to improve on. And that's just going to take time. Marty's going to take a lot of time and back in order to get his position right. Um, there were some lovely patterns of play though, from positions where they would get over to the byline, try and chip balls over. They would try to get the ball in positions where we were around the penalty box. We were in like these kind of spaces. We would also be then following up with certain people in this position, and it allowed us to fill the box full of people. The only issue is that on the counter attack, that could be part of the issue. And we saw that when we played against QPR, when Martin Cifuentes was the manager, when we had Ruud van Nistelrooy, when we beat them 6-2, they left lots of space in behind. Now, I think we get away with the championship for sure. And I think this is going to take time. But if we go to some of the players, Coley looks solid. Vestergaard look 5 out of 10, I'll be honest with you. But again, it is pre-season. But I can't say Vestergaard having such a better version in future as well. Alves look good. Mavididi look good. Ayew, I think, is cut out for the championship. I think what he did last year, I think he would be a really good player to try and group people around. Um, I'll just mention some players that I've not seen as well, but overall there is some good positions that I want to mention. But there's some teams, the players that didn't even make the bench. Um, actually, before I get to that, let's couple of people. So, um, it was really good to see Mavididi, sorry, Fatawu back on the pitch as well. Really great to see him playing his good football. It was just we forgot how good he is. Now you think about when Mongo's coming into the side. You think about when Fatawu was coming into the side. I think even Page. These all feel like new signings. Because of what happened of last year and because we're bringing up the youth. Some of these players I was really impressed with, and for me, it's about getting some of these players out so we can bring in the new lot of talent. Let's go into some of the players that didn't play. So Ben Nelson mentioned injured. There was also quite a few players that I think some people are maybe not mentioning. Joseph, JJ, another JJ. We've got two JJs. Joseph didn't get a start. Silko Thomas didn't get any minutes. Who else did I mention? Marcel didn't get any minutes, which is something interesting. The squad was split into two. Golding, Braybrook weren't even mentioned. Aluko wasn't in the squad at all as well. Koulibaly, last signed this year. No real intention, and until his attitudes dropped or something, we didn't get anything from him. Um, so it's just a few players to mention that didn't even get minutes. Maybe they are coming up or something like that, but yeah. Um, but some players to look out for in this half. Obviously, Ayew was a standout with the goal. Even though it was only 1-0 on the outside, there was a lot of attacking opportunities. And I think if this is gonna you're gonna have to give Marty a lot of time for him to get his information right. Because when he gets it right, I'm seeing some really positive things from him at the moment. So I'm really excited where he can take this because we are in a really I think we're in quite a strong position in the championship. Maybe a little bit doom and gloom. That's what I do make any videos for a bit. But I forgot how good this squad is. Now it is against the Hungarian side. I don't really know where they are in league, etc. But the more this develops, the thing is we've just started pre-season. As in like pre-season started 3 games ago, let's be honest, with a new manager coming in. And that's board messing up, and that's part of the thing. We've got to make sure to hold this board accountable. We can't just forget it just because we're winning. Um, and criticism will go away because we're winning. But we did some really good pressing from the front. I love the fluidity of it, and I'm all back in Marty and what he's trying to achieve. I want to give more time to work with the players and develop that relationship. But overall, I've really enjoyed kind of what he's done in such a small amount of time. Fitness levels look decent. Another thing I noticed as well, free kicks were taken quickly. They weren't stood and kind of like a set piece would come in, apart from obviously the corners. But when we won fouls, we would turn them over and play the ball quickly. So maybe that's an instruction from Marty as well, something to look forward to the season. Um, and these players can rotate between them. Monga, I think one disadvantage is that Monga is too good to the fact. Remember, we had James Madison or at times IU before you should just get fouled all the time and win fouls or win free kicks. In this case, when it comes to the way that we analyze, the way that we play, I think that Monga's going to get, they're going to see him as the target man and they're just going to target him with fouls and kicks, etc. Remember what happened to Will Alves? Again, obviously that's extremely unfortunate. I don't think something like that's going to happen. But thinking about when he had his injury, he was the best player on that pitch for the under 23s until some Wolves guy came and stamped on him and took him out. We just don't want that thing to happen. But overall, even with the new players that come in, a lot of them I'm seeing, yeah, you can be ready for the championship, which I'm really excited about. So yes, it'll be interesting to see who we keep. But it was great to see again Lewis Page. I'm surprised that Evans and Alves didn't get as many minutes, but yeah, I've mentioned the amount of players that didn't get minutes as well. For Tau, it was good to see him get back on the pitch. He will be like another signing. So the we've almost got a too big squad. We need to trim some of the fat and get some of these players out if we can. Because if we look into, and I probably should load this up as well. Probably it's early to talk about this. Leicester players contract. Give me 1 second. Expiring 2026. We are going to have mass change next season. But if we lose all of these players on a free, it's only going to make our situation worse. So if we look at some of these as well, it's a large portion of the squad. If I go to this one, Google Chrome, there we go. Looking at this, ignores, but look at the amount of people that are out of contract next year. James Justin out of contract, Samore out of contract, he's gone. Harry Winks, Patson Daka, Luke Thomas, Ricardo Pereira, Jordan Ayew, Connor Cody, Wanya Marcel. Is Fast not out of contract? I guess he's the year afterwards. But that's a key part of the squad, the older players. If we go to 2027, so the next few years, 2027 show, there's going to be a lot of players. Okay. So then after that, then you've got, again, Ben Nelson out of contract, again, injured as mentioned. Slarchek, Vestergaard, D. Cordova, Reed, Chowdhury, Fats, and Ndidi. So over the next couple of years, let's be honest, we've not got a good record of getting rid of these players ahead of time. But when it comes to things like this, I mean, there's going to be a lot of turnaround in this squad, and we've got a budding young youth that are there. Even if they don't get that many minutes, if we can get them out on loan, and with the whole FFP situation, let's say we get promoted, and what's the priority? People would say striker, and I think that the way we play, if we start play three up front, we're having wingers etc. that can interchange. And I understand that logic of we need a striker, but if that stops us from signing a better striker in the future, I think that's something to consider, especially with the players out of contract, the amount of money the club is hemorrhaging. So I don't know, they're my thoughts. What do you think? Leave the comments down below. Remember, we've still got to hold the board accountable. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. So goodbye.